Your expected approach time 3-4, approach button 17, the altimeter 2997.
Welcome back to the DCS Situation Report, everyone, where we discuss all things DCS from Eagle Dynamics. I'm your host, Prickly Hedgehog, and I hope this video finds you well wherever you're tuning in from today. This week's ED newsletter centers on information about Ugra Media's development of a new version of the Normandy map, herein known as Normandy 2. Normandy 2 expands the original map to 400 by 600 kilometers and features both London and Paris, and of course the surrounding regions. Set in 1944, the map will have more than 130 original map objects and will be around 6 times larger than the current map. Objects include new churches, train stations, market squares, and gas stations, as well as natural and cultural features. The UK has been completely redone to a much greater level of detail and accuracy, along with the French regions, which also are updated. We will see, therefore, improved ground textures, roads, rail lines, fields, forests, and new trees. Objects such as telegraph and power poles, semaphores, fences, and new buildings, as well as more accurate rivers and coastlines, which will also include the chalk cliffs of southern England, will feature. Unique airfields will bump up to 50, and again we'll be seeing more detail and equipment to match the period. According to the newsletter blurb, the map is using new technology that allows existing maps to be extended with low-level detailed areas, and it will still allow you to join multiplayer servers. The upgrade will be required, of course, to enjoy, though, the higher-level details. Now, the starting for the pricing of the new map will, of course, be $59.99, no surprise there. But here's the caveat. If you own either the Normandy map or the Channel map as individuals, you will be paying only $14.99 for the Normandy map. If you happen to own both the Normandy and the current Channel map, the upgrade is only going to cost you $10, which is a pretty decent compensation, I think, if you've already purchased one or both of those maps. Now, speaking of caveats, many of you probably are thinking this doesn't mean a whole lot to me, unless of course you've already purchased the maps or you are really interested in buying Normandy 2. Now, if you're not interested in buying it for the undiscounted price, well, at this time, unfortunately, I see no references to early access pricing. There is a broad picture here, though, worth noting regardless of the pricing and whether or not you're interested in the map. And that is in terms of what this means and some of the language referenced in this week's newsletter. Firstly, of course, we have a reference to new technology. Now, we don't know exactly what that means, what precisely the new technology is that ED's using and Ugra are using to produce this map software, which I think, again, is very, very interesting. And it further highlights some cooperation, at least, between the ED team and the Ugra Media team to combine the two maps that we have in the game right now, for want of a better term, into a more usable format than it currently is, which I suspect will be a massive boom to World War II fans looking for a more cohesive working environment. I suspect it will also be a huge bonus to campaign developers, as well as players of that era of conflict. It's going to be very, very handy to have both of those maps effectively combined into the one. Again, I think it's a more useful format for that particular era of conflict. Remember too, now the other part to this is that Ugra Media produced the Syria map as well, and one has to wonder if there will be some sort of combination of the Persian Gulf map, which is an ED map, and Syria, which is an Ugra Media map, to expand again our flight horizons in this theater as well. That is a very real possibility, I think, so stay tuned and see what will happen. Now, of course, as mentioned with regards to this new technology, I think it does raise a lot of questions about exactly what they're referencing here and what ED has set loose in the environment and what it's going to mean for future development of maps that are currently in the game, such as the Syria and the Persian Gulf maps, and also maps that are currently in development, say the Kola Peninsula or the Sinai map, and also ones that are planned if they exist, say for example the Vietnam map that we often reference, or anything out there that is being kicked around or in very early development by either ED or say another developer. Ultimately, it bodes very well for the future of DCS, especially if we start seeing, aside from Vietnam, Cold War era maps and objects suitable for that era of gameplay, including, of course, all the aircraft that we're starting to see festoon that particular genre right now. So let me know what you think about this particular update, whether you're interested in the Normandy map per se, or Normandy 2, or whether or not you're more interested in how this benefits the game overall and the possibility of larger maps and existing maps being sewn together, so to speak, into new and larger maps. It's a very, very interesting development, I think. And let me know what you think, if I'm right or if I'm wrong, or if you have another opinion on that particular topic. Again, I think it's an interesting one.
That's mostly so that we didn't conflict. So, Budgie, you have eyes on Prickly?
I do, yeah. Just joining on his low left now.
Yep, sweet.
Now, speaking of aircraft, we had a little update this week on India Fox Echo's MB339, which ED have described as being set for imminent release, which is good news. Now, the team have really gotten into the weeds on this particular aircraft in terms of accuracy and realism, and they have included things like comprehensive modeling of the aircraft's electrical system, which includes a 5 separated DC bus, 6 AC bus, circuit breakers, logic, and bus reset switches. Each bus becomes active according to a specific logic based on generators and alternators being activated. Load meters indicate the actual electrical load on generators 1 and 2. Now, in addition, the hydraulic system is also modeled in detail and features 2 separate circuits, or separated circuits, main and emergency. The main circuits provide power to the landing gear, wheel brakes, nose wheel steering, the flaps, the speed brake, and aileron servo control. If, for example, you deactivate the ailerons, you will not be able to make a complete lateral excursion of the stick. The excursion decreases if the airspeed increases for a dynamic pressure effect. So it's pretty interesting stuff there. A lot of thoughts gone into the handling and the modeling of that particular hydraulic system, which I think is really, really interesting. Now, the emergency system provides the pressure required for the landing gear, emergency extension, and operation of the emergency brake. No surprise there. The parking brake is connected to the same circuit, so if you activate the emergency brake, the anti-skid will not work. The team have modeled the anti-ice system, where ice formation will cause loss of aerodynamic and engine performance. Canopy icing and windshield demister feature pitot and AOA sensors, anti-ice and engine anti-ice systems. Pretty cool. There is a pressurization system, which is displayed in the cabin altitude gauge and will show the equivalent cabin pressure. If switched off, you can see the use of the ram air scoop to improve cabin ventilation during an emergency, as well as a mechanism to regulate cabin temperature to avoid canopy fogging. So quite a lot of neat little details there. There is a working nav system featuring, of course, VOR, DME, TACAN, ILS, and the GPS, a working CDU, and the possibility to set a data cartridge, or DTC, I believe that is. Now, the aircraft will have working radios, including 3 push-to-talk features. 1 is on the stick and 2 are on the throttle. A realistic master arm logic, oxygen system, and fuel system. There will be multi-crew synchronization, an IFR hood for training, and so that's interesting, and a complete damage model. So regardless of whether you purchase the module or not, or if you're interested in purchasing it, it's difficult to ignore the detail that the team have gone into here in order to reproduce this popular trainer, which in fairness has been sold all over the world for many years. It's interesting to see that level of thought put into it, as each team's efforts these days continues to raise the bar of our expectations and also signals what virtual pilots are looking for and willing to support with every new module that gets developed. It really is interesting to watch as each team tackles a particular aircraft and what they plan to model and how much detail there is in it. Obviously, some aircraft, these Gen 4, Gen 4.5 aircraft are predictably more complicated in terms of the electronic systems that they have, but even things like the F-14, for example, has a pretty complicated hydraulic system. So there's a lot of work that goes into these, even when they don't appear to be particularly sophisticated jets by electronic standards. Nonetheless, there's a lot of mechanical stuff that can be modeled, electrical stuff that can be modeled, which provides a degree of really interesting potential problems if these functions fail, if these systems fail, and how you can switch to auxiliary systems to back them up, or how they will behave if one or the other is not working properly, so on and so forth. It's really kind of cool stuff. So again, hopefully we'll see this module in game soon. As described, it is imminent, and it joins a lot of eagerly awaited ones also set for release in 2022 as we count down really to the end of the year. Now, one of those anticipated modules is, of course, the F-15E, which saw another video on the weapon management system from Razbam this week, once again showing the work being done on the various systems of the aircraft. It's a promising sign of things to come in-game and expands the potential for cooperative gameplay and also solo campaigns involving increasingly interesting and realistic scenarios. And of course, all of this is great potential for, hopefully at some point, a dynamic campaign. So having more aircraft that are able to perform specific functions in the game is a really useful addition to complex arsenals for air warfare. And somebody actually mentioned the fact that flying iron simulations are producing an F-111 or F-117, I should say, for the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 game that they had hoped would be seen in DCS world as well. In fact, a lot of people were hoping that they would morph the model into a DCS version as a potential instant buy. We're not there yet in terms of that, but it is an interesting addition to the Microsoft environment. And it's, we don't have a lot of transitions really, or transfer overs. Obviously, India Fox Echo is doing stuff for Microsoft Flight Simulator as well, so they have a lot of projects. But DCS is a little bit different in terms of the way in which these aircraft are produced, the way in which there is modeling and detail and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how much parallelism there is between the two platforms. So we'll have to wait and see if any of that, rival genre, if you like, or rival franchise can translate into DCS products. And there may be licensing agreements and other impediments as well to doing that, but nonetheless, it signals some really interesting things going on in flight simulation in general. And speaking of that, don't forget we also have another combat helicopter in the works, and that is the BO-105 by Miltech 5, which I know some of you are eager to hear from, including, of course, the Kiowa, which we are also waiting for and was somewhat delayed due to some illness within the team there. So we're waiting to see more progress updates on that particular aircraft. And there are several less well-known projects as well lurking in the wings, which are still early days. We talked about flying iron simulations, which I believe are producing the A-72E Crusader. So we've got a lot of projects in the wings that are still either in early development processes or have gone quiet of late. So keep tuning in for more info as it comes to hand. There are some really exciting things going on out there, but some of them have been quiet in terms of projects and updates. Let me know what you think of today's map news and the future vision you see for DCS World. Not only are we getting more maps and modules, but I'm also seeing significant growth in periphery devices, something that we mentioned last week, which are supported by various manufacturers to supplement our flying hobbies. And that is exciting stuff. It really does make it worthwhile picking up some things to embellish, making our flying experiences a little easier rather than having to rely on a mouse, MFDs, upfront controllers, so on and so forth. It's getting, I guess, more affordable to pick up some of this equipment and create a little bit of a home cockpit, something that certainly years and years ago was really only a dream, and now it's starting to become much more of a reality. And that's really cool. Now, no patch, of course, this week. We'll build up again for probably something mid-month or more likely the end of the month. Usually this will be an update to open beta, so stay tuned for that. Once again, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment in the comments section below. Apologies for the voice. It was still not quite there yet. Still recovering from the COVID, although I'm a lot better than what I was last week, I must say. 3 days of training this week, so it kept me busy. Yeah, that was my week. So we'll see you next time on the DCS Situation Report. Cheers.
112 left, delay 90.
Two.
So Budgie's turning first, guys. As soon as Prickly anticipates, you're climbing, Budgie.
Yep.
So there you go. And as soon as Prickly anticipates his nose being on, he starts his turn. They're full dry power now. As you start getting close to 270, guys, go ahead and pull back the throttle so you can do your speed.
Established.
Roger.
On the left. 0.8.
There's Akroturi down there, guys, off our nose.
That's not bad.